Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. We have the greats of Recon with us here today, Dennis McGinn and Josh DeYoung with Rapid Recon, the name in the industry. Everyone knows who Rapid Recon is, a part of the Velo umbrella. Welcome, gentlemen, back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted. Love being here with you. Thank you for including us.
Glad to be back, Ted. Thank you so
And
much.
Dennis and Josh, thank both of you as well for all you do for the industry and for fixed operations and for the roundtable. I'm excited to say that we're going to be with you and announce that we'll be in person next week with you at the NADA in Las Vegas for 2026. We're going to be in the Velo booth. You could see the scroll down below. We're going to be in the West Hall. You're going to be able to come by and see Rapid Recon and all of the solutions they offer. Booth number 2911W. It's a really big booth, okay? And we're going to have a big stage set up and lights, camera, action. And Velo has gone all the way on this, and we're going to get the best of retail and the best of Dennis McGinn and Josh DeYoung out there as well. Gentlemen, so what I want to do today is kind of set the stage for all that, bring us up to speed. Dennis, we were talking in the green room. This is the year of finding efficiencies in fixed ops. No one better than you and Josh to talk about that. So take us from yellow notepad to real workflow and talk to us about fast recon being more than just about speed. It's about money as well.
Yeah, this is an easy topic. Josh and I live in this space and have for a while. But yeah, I mean, reconditioning is not about turning wrenches. It's about speed. It's about money. Basically, is about efficiency. And just like every year, and we're all going to see each other at NADA, it's about, okay, what am I going to do to do a better job, make more money, and make my life easier going into 2026? So I have the opportunity to kind of occasionally paw into the Rapid Recon customer base, which is, it is the base now. And we've added a lot of products to it to help sell more cars
Okay.
and help get cars reconditioned faster. But it's still the opportunity that I see in the metrics, in the numbers, is still there. I mean, we've kind of just chipped into this thing in terms of accountability, and we have customers that have taken full advantage of it. In other words, they are running it 2 or 3 days, which they never were before. They all thought they were, but they weren't, and now they are. And these are the guys making the most money, and they're the happiest because everybody's being rewarded. So the challenge we have, I think, to going into this next year is how do we help our base, both the new customers coming in and the current base? How do we help them look at what they've already got that they're not using? Okay, they don't need to spend more money on reconditioning or other tools. I mean, they usually have what they need. There's some exceptions, but usually they do. But the question really is, let's go back and look at why we did this in the first place. Okay, let's take a close look at your numbers, and if you can't figure it out, we'll help you figure it out. We've got a lot of people that really know this stuff, and they're available to help to look behind the scenes with you and figure out where to go from here. And so I'm going to ask Josh. Josh, what do you think? What from our customers? What are you hearing?
I think that, a lot of times we go into a new year like 2026 and we want to get back to the basics. And, NADA is a super special time. It's good camaraderie in a lot of ways to sit down with not only dealers, but, other vendor partners out there that sometimes collaborate together with different integrations and things. And I think a lot of times we as dealers or we as vendors, we get so wrapped up in the customer experience, meaning the consumer that's buying the car and the consumer that's servicing the car. And I think a lot of times we forget about our employees, right? We forget about how do we give our employee the best experience? How do we give our employee an easy way to track and make their jobs easier? And I think a lot of times we forget about that. And so you look at a reconditioning platform like Rapid Recon and go, okay, well, this is not just about the customer, it's about your employees. Like a detailer wants to do a good job, a detailer really wants to see what's coming, right? And so I think a lot of times we lose focus of things like that, and NADA is always a really good spot for me to sit down and think about that, right? If I own the dealership, what I, customers are super important, but have we always said, if we have happy employees, we're going to have happy customers, right? And so those are some things that I'm really starting to hear and see, especially going into a new year, especially around NADA. Is, if I have happy employees, I'm going to have happy customers.
And Josh, this affects every dealer out there, Recon, and you gentlemen, Rapid Recon, Dennis McGinn, giant, okay, in our industry in terms of that. Josh, tell me a little more because from what I remember and what I am aware of, Rapid Recon really helps put eyes, okay, on the system, okay, helping leadership see what's going on. If you want to maybe shed a little color on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the analogy is you buy a car off the curb, or you buy it from auction. It shows up at your dealership in the very front, or it gets dropped off and it goes in a black hole, right? And nobody knows where it is. Nobody knows how long it's been sitting, right? And we have some dealers that have some processes in place without technology, like trade walks, right? And they're walking those trades, or they're walking them every day, whether it be a trade walk in a lane, or whether it be a parking spot, or a particular spot on the lot. But at the end of the day, if there's no piece of technology, there's still not a way to measure that, right? And when you can't
Yeah.
measure it, you can't manage it. And if you can't manage it, you can't fix it. And so just having the visibility of a number, right? There's 24 hours in a day. The best part about that is, Ted, 24 hours for you and 24 hours for me is exactly the same. It's not going to change, unfortunately, right? Dennis, we both have 24 hours. It's not going to change. And so a unit of time and a unit of measurement is important, because we're all keeping score the same way. And so having a piece of technology to be able to identify that and manage that it's important. But if you don't have it, it's kind of hard to do. So
Josh, what you're not taking into account is that Dennis doesn't sleep during those 24 hours. So
yeah,
he does have a few more hours than we do, you and I.
Am
yeah.
I still getting blamed for that? Unfortunately, it's true. It's,
Dennis, I've
uh,
heard you say that the general manager's notepad, the legal pad, the notepad is the real operating in systems in the operating systems in a lot of dealerships. If you want to expand on that as well.
yeah, I think best way to describe it is as one general manager who was not trying to be funny. He was just trying to be actual about what's going on. And going into the dealership every day is like going into a jungle. Okay, and with monkeys on trees jumping around, and and so they come into the dealership. They've already got a couple of monkeys from yesterday,
Sure.
and they tried to remember what they were or write them down on the notepad. But then all of a sudden there's another monkey jumping out at them, and it could be that, and it's just a constant flow of jungle monkeys, and between them getting to their store and getting into their office to try and solve some of these problems. So I thought that was a kind of an interesting way to
Yeah.
look at it from them. Some of them talk about squirrels or monkeys, but it's same kind of thing. So what happens to accountability when you are putting everything on a yellow notepad and you've got them somewhere? You may have them in your briefcase or maybe on your desk or whatever it is, and it just doesn't work because you don't have the person uh, directing the action, the general manager, and the assignees, all the people doing the work. They're not on the same page. They can't be because there's no technology helping them kind of figure this out. And so we're bringing something out here called Workflow Live. It is not a Velo product. Velo has been very supportive, but we decided to go after this problem that general managers have of just managing their action items. So it's a basically an accountability tool for action items.
Can
And
I ask you can I ask you both, if you don't mind? Um, One of the things we talked about in the green room are these 4 biggest reasons that slow down the recon process, Dennis. And I know number 1 on the list, I hear it all the time with dealers, is that we're waiting for a human being, for a person to make a decision. That's the approval. That's probably the biggest one. I know it's the first one. If you want to elaborate on that for us a little bit, Dennis.
yeah, that's true, and it's because they're in different places, and they're fighting different fires at the same time. Okay, it's the monkey problem. Okay, so how do you keep things moving forward? Well, you can chase somebody with a phone call, or you can get that on the yellow notepad and use something like Workflow Live to make sure everybody knows, hey, this is important now. And what that does, it immediately uh, connects to the assignee, and the assignee says, "Yeah, I got it," or I've already done it. But everybody knows where everything is the whole time, right from their phone or their desktop. Why not? I mean, we've got all this technology. Let's use it. And so that's kind of what we're bringing into this thing. And frankly, I look at all the great products that Velo has, and that focus on fixed operations a lot, some on variable, and this applies to all of them. This applies to everything a general manager has to worry about. And I think this is going to be a big help, not just to Rapid Recon and not just to all the terrific products that Velo has brought to the marketplace, but I think it's going to help the dealership's ability to execute, to actually deliver on all the action items that keep coming up. And now they'll know where they stand, just like Rapid Recon. That's what we started that. No accountability. Okay, so we're going to bring that to the general manager for everything they do.
Josh, do you want to elaborate on that a little bit more?
I mean, you talked about the approval
Yeah.
process. Some of those processes are still pretty archaic. And when you're referring to approvals, you're really talking about, mechanics or service advisors are getting, work approved on a pre-owned vehicle as far as reconditioning costs. And a lot of that is just because of, lack of technology in a lot of ways, right?
Sure.
They're trying to use the DMS, or they're literally walking it up to the sales tower to find the used car manager to get approval, and that used car manager is buying cars at the auction, they're
He's out.
appraising
Yeah.
cars at the curb. Yeah, he has no plans to have that yellow notepad on a very high propensity to get it done. It is a very low propensity to get done, because in essence, if they don't have a piece of technology, there's no ticker. They don't know how long it's taken. It's a guess. And so a lot of times, when we put the Rapid Recon in a dealership, that's one of the real eyesores, is that approval process, because nobody's been measuring it. There's never been a stopwatch on that step, or that step of the process. And it really starts to open up some eyes, where dealers say, hey, listen, Dennis, I know you're my used car manager. I'm going to give you the ability to approve it, but if you don't approve it in a timely manner, I'm going to send it to Ted, because we know that there's gonna be things that we have to move forward with, and we're not gonna wait on you. So there's ways and processes to leverage the technology to speed up that process. But yeah, the approval process for some dealers are days,
That's
not
right.
hours,
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That used car manager is out of the store. You're not getting the approval today, Josh. And I heard he's going to another auction tomorrow, okay? Because
right,
he's got to buy another 50 to
right,
75 units. So it may not be till Friday or next week when we hear back.
right.
Josh, what about things like parts too? Because, a lot of that's all got to be handled. That's part of the equation.
I think a lot of times, we look at the reconditioning process and we think, oh, we have another piece of technology that we have to implement into the store. But I think if you really start to think about, down funnel, what that looks like, parts is one of those steps in the process that can really be identified pretty early on. So let's give you somewhat of an example of what that looks like.
Right.
If Dennis buys a car,
Okay.
right, at auction, and it hits my inventory and it's not there yet, and I know for a fact it needs tires, why wouldn't I go ahead and get the tires ordered before it even gets to the store, it gets to the shop, it even hits the technician's bay, right? So I can't necessarily speed up the parts ordering and delivering process with Rapid Recon. But what I can do is I can give you the information early enough that you can order it early enough that the tires are sitting in the bay when the technician shows up the day to recondition the vehicle. So
That's huge.
parts a lot of times can be sped up just because I have the availability to view that vehicle super early on in the process. And that's with anything. That's oil filters, that's oil, that's wiper blades. That's on vehicles that are non-makes. And so having that information early helps to speed up the parts ordering process because I can do it before the car even gets into the shop.
Dennis, I go down the line, I'm looking, okay, you got the approval process. That may take a little bit. Then we get the approval. Now I got to order the parts, and where's the car? It's sitting outside. Okay. Then the technician's going to have to go find it when it comes in. Dennis, what are some of the best practices? What are some of the things that, the top stores, because I know you both work with a lot of the best dealers in the country. What are some simple habits that they do differently, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, they actually use the use the metrics that we developed in Rapid Recon
Okay.
to know where they stand, review it with their team, so the team knows they're looking at the numbers, and they should have a huddle, that Recon huddle. Some of them have every day, but
Every day.
certainly at the beginning of the week, at the end of the week, they should have their huddle and say, "Okay, well, really, how are we doing?" And the third thing is we now have so much data of stores, thousands of stores, millions of cars that you can kind of say, well, how am I doing versus the other guys, whether they're in their group or whether they're not, and that's really a good thing. I mean, we're all competitive, but general managers and dealerships are really ultra competitive. So I think there's a driver here for speed to get the fresh cars. The fresh cars sell fastest and make the most money, and to stay on front of that. But if you don't pay attention to it on a regular basis, your people won't either. Okay.
Point. Good point. Good
It,
point.
it this it, and I remember how this all got started. Rapid Recon. It all started with a general manager here in the Bay Area, a Lexus store that's now has everything. They're a complete Rapid customer. He grabbed me one day and he took me out back and he said, "You see all these cars that were traded in?" I said, "I don't know when they came here. All I can do is go out and see how much dust is on them." And I thought, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. This is money sitting here, not nobody's paying attention to it. So it's going back to the beginning. It's
Wow.
still there,
Yes.
and it's at all different levels. And the only person that can actually help cut through all this stuff is a general manager, right? Because he has all of the people there, and he's responsible for the profitability of that operation. And we're hitting in the used car business. Profitability is mostly right there. Okay, um, the parts and labor and things, but used car sales is where the additional profitability opportunity sits the most.
And Josh, Rapid really focuses on these best habits, these best practices, that Dennis is speaking about. If you want to elaborate on that a little bit as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, once you really start to have a true measurement of how long it takes in each step of the process, right? How long is detail really taking? I think a lot of dealerships think detail takes forever. Right. I know I got done with that car. What's taking so long? And so I think once you start to leverage the technology and you leverage the metrics, that's when you can really start to put in processes, right? And what are those best practices and processes, right? It might be, okay, we have 7 detailers and we have a detailed department, and that detailed department just doesn't detail used vehicles, right? They have to detail new cars. They have to, detail delivery of brand new vehicles. They have to Maybe they have service washes that they have to wash. So, how do you take all that time into consideration with the technology and say, hey, we might have a team of people or a couple of people that all they do is use car washes, or this team, once we sell a car, that's the highest priority because the customer is usually waiting. So, once you really start to leverage the technology, you can leverage the metrics, and put in best practices. And that's just one of those, small little best practices that you can put in, based on the facility and the people and the many cars that you're selling. But, once you have the technology, you can leverage some of that.
I talk to a lot of people on the Fixed Ops Roundtable, Dennis, and I know when something is really good, when over the years, people just organically mention it to me offline or off on the side, and they say, "You know what? We've got that Rapid Recon in our store." And that started coming up a couple years ago, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and I hear it to this day all the time, okay? And they swear by Rapid Recon. Now, gentlemen, next week we're going to NADA. A lot of dealers, a lot of managers watching today are coming to NADA. They're going to see you. They're going to see Rapid Recon at the Velo booth in the West Hall. What are some of the things they're going to be able to actually put eyes on, maybe put hands on? If I don't know how much you can give away today, okay? Because I know there's a lot of reason to come next week. But if you don't mind, what can they expect, and how can they get more information on some of the things that you have coming as well that we're hinting about now?
Yeah, I think they're going to see Velo in lights
Okay.
with all the products, Dealer Logic, Service Lane, eAdvisor, Text to Drive, and uh, Total Customer Connect. I mean, they've got some
And
real
dealer pay now
and
too.
dealer pay. Yeah, I mean, they've got some really good solutions that go across the dealership, and not just not just variable. I think, I take a lot of pride in the fact that Rapid has been very successful and that they have helped move that along, with a lot of resources, and I'm going to be there in the booth, with them and talking to them about the whole picture. Um, and so I'm excited because it's a new year. We've got a new opportunity to kind of relook at what do we have, what are we invested in that we could improve. Okay, and I think a lot about that because from the time I started Rapid Recon, we've made a lot of progress in one area, reconditioning, but there's so many areas in the dealership that we can help them with that can make the customers happier, make the dealership more profitable, uh, put the general manager in control of things, instead of just going into their store every day and heading and getting jumped on by a bunch of monkeys.
Josh, would you like to add to that as well?
Yeah, listen, NADA is a blast. I think I'm going on double digits, mid double digits for
Mm,
NADA, and I challenge every dealer. If you want to have a conversation, come by and see us.
okay.
If you're not ready to buy, it's okay, right? We don't want to sell you if you're not ready. But if you want to have a conversation, if you're interested in seeing something that might be a good fit for you and your team, come see us. We're going to show you live software, right? It will be live. We can give you some examples of what really good dealers are doing, or even some dealers that just started, right? But I think in my head, I really believe that most dealers don't buy technology not because of the price, or not because they don't think it's going to work. I think they're just so concerned about, are their teams gonna use it? And we've got over 7,000 dealers that
Wow.
all probably felt the same way they did, and they're on the technology. And so I think that's the biggest challenge. Most dealers probably don't buy any technology, not just Rapid Recon, is because they're afraid their people are not going to use it, and we're phenomenal at that. And so we
That's
know it's
funny.
a challenge. We know what they're up against. We know that people, in a lot of ways, don't want to be held accountable, and there's different ways to make their life easier. And so if they want to have a conversation, come see us. We'd love to talk.
You said 7,000 dealers?
Yeah, in some capacity,
That
absolutely.
is huge. That is huge. You got a huge presence, gentlemen. And Dennis, I understand we all also may get a chance to hear a little bit about Workflow Live as well when we come out to see you.
Yes, yeah, this product is going up. February February 2nd. Yeah, that's when it goes on live. We'll start putting up some beta sites, and we've been at it long enough to know we've been able to use some of the AI technology and be able to use some of that magic that makes it easier to get all the data together. That is mind-boggling, really, to try and do that on a manual basis. So whether the customers are listening here, whether you have Rapid Recon or not, you need to come to our booth and see what we're doing. I mean, because if you don't have a Velo product, a starting point, and I like Rapid, of course, is the best. You're just selling yourself short. And we know as much about this business as anybody, you know, and uh, uh, and we don't have to sell you anything, but we have to help you be more efficient. And that's all. That's what I've been about since the beginning. We've seen the results, but it's not easy. I mean, it has to. It takes some moxie to figure it out, and leadership is really a big deal. And so everybody that knows about Rapid, that has it or doesn't have it, come see us because we've got more things we can help you with. And you don't have to buy a lot of stuff to do that. We're going to be there anyway.
All right. All right. Make it a part of your plan, everybody. Sarah Van Tyne and I will be there. We'll be with Josh DeYoung and Dennis McGinn at the Velo booth. We're going to be in the West Hall. It is scrolling across the bottom, booth number 2911W. It's a really big size booth. We're in the big leagues, and we're going to have a lot of great conversations out there. So join Dennis, Josh, and myself. We're going to be there the entire time, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Do not miss out. If you're not going for some reason, come to the web to rapidrecon.com to learn more. You can reach out to Josh and Dennis also. They're very active on social media. The giants in Recon, everybody. Dennis McGinn and Josh DeYoung with Rapid Recon from Velo here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.